everybody. Welcome to March 13th, our 13th day of our March Minimizing Challenge. I hope you've been following along, and if not, you can check out all the videos. Just go to my Instagram feed and they're all there. You can also find them on Facebook and on YouTube. So hopefully you're able to find the videos, and if you prefer to read along, you can also visit my website and go to my blog, and I have written a post that goes with each of our topics as well. So there's all kinds of places to follow along here, and I hope you're doing that. Our topic for today is books, and I always find books as kind of an interesting one to talk about because book lovers love their books, and they think it's a horrendous thought to, the thought of getting rid of a book is just, almost against the law. And I want you to know that I was like that. I was one of those people. I used to have a time in my life where books was the center of everything. I was a published author. I was part owner in a publishing house. I was a writer. And I would say that I very much fell into that group of, I had books. I bought books. I bought books recommended to me. I bought books that I would randomly go in and spend hours in the bookstore and pull books randomly off a shelf and read the backs and buy them. I had books. And when I decided to consider minimizing my books the first time that I did a minimizing challenge, and that was about 5 years ago, I think, I was a little hesitant about doing it because, I'm a reader. I love my books. Of course, I need my books. But what I realize now that I didn't really place into words back then is when we look at our books as a collection, they become one. So we love our book collection. We love our books, right? But when we break down that collection into individual books and look at the collection as individual items, it's no longer one item. Now it's however many of those items that you have. You can kind of think about that for any collection you have, but today, obviously, I'm talking about books. So once I was able to say, I'm going to look at my books, each individual title, and make a decision, not on books as a group, but on books individually, that kind of changed my perspective on being able to go through my books a little bit more objectively. And I can tell you that this was probably the most amazing moment that I had when I was starting out minimizing, that really told me the impact that minimizing our belongings can have. I went through and I was looking at books that I kept because they were recommended to me and I had good intentions of reading them. I had books that I meant to read, just hadn't got around to it yet. I had books that I read and I loved and intended to read again. I had books that I kept and I loved even though I had no intention of reading them again. I had just all kinds, right? All kinds of books and all kinds of reasons for keeping them. But when I really started to get down to it, I let go of books that I had tried to read and couldn't get into and stuck them back on the shelf. Why did I have those books? No reason. I wasn't going to try to read them again. I didn't get into them the first time. Or maybe at the time I thought, oh, I'll try it later. Maybe it'll be better later on. But because I had no interest the first time, I never did pick it up again. I let go of books I didn't like. I had books that, in my opinion, had been so poorly written that I actually would get so frustrated reading it, I'd throw it across the room and be like, who wrote this crap? And yet I stuck it back on my bookshelf. Why? No reason. So those books went. I let go of the books that I had at one time had the intention to read. And that intention was kind of no longer there. Whatever reason I had for buying the book in the first place, that intention was no longer there, and I kept bypassing it. When I was looking for something new to read, I kept bypassing this book or these books. And why would I hang on to them? A really important idea is, could someone else be enjoying this book? Right? I'm not doing anything with it. I have no intention of reading it. It's collecting dust on my shelf. So I let those books go. I had let go of books that I had read but had no intentions of reading again. I think I just repeated myself. Sorry about that. What I didn't expect when I put all of these books into boxes was the guilt that fell off my shoulders that I didn't even realize I had. It was really a profound moment when I felt this lightness. And it wasn't just from the visible change of decluttering the bookshelf, but it was actually internal. I realized the feeling of guilt. All of your objects in your home, every item in your home speaks to you. And they all send a message. Whether that message is positive or negative, every single item sends a message. And for the books that I had put away into boxes, they carried the message of, you should read me. Why haven't you read me? You should, you should, you should. And those shoulds are terrible. And they carry guilt. And as soon as I put all of those books into the boxes and removed them from my home, that guilt went out the door with it. This is a huge, profound moment for me in recognizing the significance of what minimizing can do. And it kind of supercharged. It was the moment that switch flipped for me, where I actually felt the physical benefit inside of letting things go. And it was very profound because books was something I really, loved and cherished and thought I really needed in my home. And I didn't get rid of all my books. I kept the books that I loved. And when I look at the covers, they were my absolute favorite books. And I kept those. And I kept the books that at that time I truly had intention of reading. Yes, I still really want to read this book. And I kept those books. And that was it. The books that I read that I will read again, and the books that I had not read, but I fully have intention to read at that time. And remember, things change over time. I've gone through my books over the last 4 or 5 years, I have gone through my books so many times, and every time I still dwindle them down. As I finish reading a book, I decide, is this book I'm keeping, not keeping? And I would say 95% of the time I'm not keeping. I'm thinking, do I know someone that would appreciate this book? Do I have a friend who I think would like this book? If not, it goes into the donation box, goes to the thrift store. Someone else will enjoy it. I got what I needed out of it, right? The other thing I did is set up a maintenance plan. And this is really, really important, is to always set up a maintenance plan after you clean out an area. So I made a commitment to myself that particularly for novels, I have to finish the novels that are on my shelf first and the ones downloaded to my Kindle first before buying any other novel. If I do buy a novel, which I haven't done, but if I do, then I have to replace it with one that I have, right? So if I bring a book in, one goes out, that idea, okay? I do make a bit of an exception. I don't follow that rule 100%. For novels, I find it a little easier to follow. But when it comes to some nonfiction books or books that I can apply to some learning that I need to do, then I do make an exception because, our interests are always changing and things we need to learn are always changing. And, so I make some exception for nonfiction books in the way of like study learning books, right? So you can decide, of course, what works best for you in that way for maintenance. Are you reading novels? Is mostly nonfiction? What applies most and best to your home? I will ask you to watch out though for loopholes for a little while after I made this agreement with myself. Uh, Even though they weren't novels, I found that, nobody knows if I order a book for my Kindle, right? It doesn't show up on a shelf anywhere. It kind of hides, nobody knows but me. I caught on very early that I was giving myself a loophole there and put a quick stop to it. Okay. It's, you don't need, just be careful of where you find that you can break your own rules once you set something up for yourself. And rules should not be rigid. Rules should be flexible. Let's call them guidelines. Don't set up rules for yourself. Maybe that's a bad word. Set up some guidelines for yourself. Be a little forgiving, have some flexibility, but you want to make sure that you're following your guidelines so that you don't go through and let go of the items that are not serving you, but then turning around and filling it back up where, a year or two from now, your bookshelf is completely overflowing again, right? Because then now you have to go through this again. And you get caught up in the money that you've spent on books. So, for the books that you're letting go of, the hard truth is that money's already spent. You're not going to get that money back. And it's not serving you to have them sitting on a shelf. If you have no intention of reading them, someone else could be enjoying them. Kind of suck up the losses and let it go. But you do have control over your spending in the future, right? So be very considerate of how you want to spend your money. Your timeline. If I buy this book, am I going to be able to read it in the next short while? Or do I have other books I need to read first? I actually have a running list on my phone of books that interested me, but I also added a note to them as to why they interested me. Because sometimes I come across a book and I look at it and go, why did I even buy this? I don't know why I bought this book. And, it's probably because somebody recommended it to me. And if a friend recommended it to me, I was a real sucker for, a friend would recommend a book to me. I would just buy it. Just buy it. Oh, they recommended it. They must know it's good. And, and at that time, my friends were all writers, so I knew they'd be well written. I could really depend on their opinion of a book. And I would just buy books constantly. Now, even if somebody says, oh, I read this book, I'll lend it to you. I'm like, you know what? I have a huge list of books at home already right now. I'll keep it in mind, but thanks, but no thanks, I'll wait. And I don't even take the loaner books right now. I have books to read and I will get through them. So your challenge for today is to take a renewed look at your book collection, right? Take the word collection out. Break your collection down into individual titles. Take a look at each individual title on your bookshelf and ask yourself, have I read this book? Will I read this book? If I have read this book, will I read it again? And could someone else be enjoying this book instead, whether you've read it or not? Right? Have a box or 2 or 5 ready to go. And, anything that is not serving you right now in the near future, you put it in the box and let it go. And I hope that you have the similar experience I did of it being, in the end, a really positive experience and a real good learning experience. I talk about this one quite a bit because it was such a profound kind of moment for me when I felt all that guilt just fall away. And it was guilt I didn't even know I had, right? And that's what minimizing can do, is it's there to simplify your life, lighten your load, and, teach you some lessons. So I hope you have some time today to go through your book collection and make some, thoughts and decisions on what you want to do with your books. If you have any questions, concerns, or need any help thinking it through, feel free, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to talk to you about it. You can DM me through social media, or you can go to my website and, contact me via email. More than happy to hear from you. I would love to help you out. All right. Have a great day, everybody. See you tomorrow.